Number 1. Today I went to the movies to see Deadpool. Alongside me was my stepmother, who has recently been training to be a cop. In the beginning, everything was going normally, and everything was good. I loved the movie, and have seen it once before this. Toward the end of the movie, though, I noticed an older man who had walked to the top of the theater where me and my stepmother were sitting, and he sat there. He didn't watch the movie, he didn't sit down, didn't do anything except stare at the people. I blew it off, thinking he was looking for someone and couldn't find them. He then went down toward the entrance of the room and did the same thing, looked up at everyone, and stared for another 7 to 10 minutes before leaving. I thought it was odd, but continued watching the movie. About 2 minutes later, I see the same old man walk in, only this time he walked very slowly across the theater, not facing the screen or anything, but once again looking at all the people. My stepmother looked at me and whispered, "Grab your things and head to the lobby." I began to get a little freaked out and did what she said. I went to the bathroom to pee, and when I came out, there were 4 workers standing outside the theater, and she was explaining how his behavior was like that of someone about to shoot up a room. He was scanning the room and everyone in it. After a while, the workers took control of the situation and watched the man for a bit just to make sure everything was well. 2 workers went in, and after about 5 minutes, they came out saying, "Yeah, dude, he's still standing there and staring at everyone." Soon after, we left the theater just to be safe. Once getting home, she had called one of her friends that works at the police station and talked to them about it. They said he was a middle-aged man and he had a loaded weapon on him the whole time he was in there. He never once sat down, nor stopped looking at everybody. Number 2. Well, it was in the middle of summer, and we were in the middle of a heat wave, so it was too hot to be outside when the sun was up. So we decided to take the horses to the beach like we had so many times before. Taking horses to the beach is not an easy task, and it involves it getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, driving to the stables, which is 40 minutes away, making our way in the dark down a steep hill to catch the horses, floundering around to get on our horses, and putting them in the float, and then driving another 40 minutes down to the beach near my house. This particular day, we got to the stables. As we were going to the beach, none of us were wearing proper riding clothes. I was in shorts and old Converse shoes. Some clouds had covered the moon, which usually shines so bright it hurts a little to look at, which threw us into complete blackness. So as my sister and I made our way down to the paddock, we held hands, so if one of us fell, one of 2 things would happen. One would fall and the other one would stop them from falling too hard or sliding on the gravel. Or the falling person would pull the other one down with her, and it would be very funny. As we approached the bottom of the hill, we could hear rustling in the cluster of trees about 50 meters in front of us. Now we spend all our free time at the stables. We know that place like the back of our hands, and being horse riders, we are very aware of where our horses are and the sounds their feet make on any kind of surface. We knew that that sound was not made by a horse. We stopped in our tracks and listened. Silence. We brushed it off and kept walking, letting our feet use habit to get us to the paddock gate safely. As my hand reached for the latch, we heard the sound again, louder and closer this time. My sister and I spun around, knowing whatever it was close, and we heard it again. This time we could make out 2 beats, but the rustle had stopped. Whatever it was had left the bushes and was now on the dirt path, crunching twigs and various leaves. Standing as still as if we had seen a snake, we listened. We had just started to relax when we heard it again. The sound humans make when they move is completely different than any other animal we have ever seen at the stables, and we know the sound well from many games of "Ha ha, scared you." My sister and I jumped over the gate and bolted, running and praying we wouldn't trip. I made a beeline for my horse, who I could see because of his fluorescent white diamond on his forehead that caught the moonlight. I quickly mounted and waited for my sister to find her horse. As soon as I mounted, I felt better, for I know he can run faster than any person. I had been standing between her and the gate, so I got over and to my horse first. I could hear her running, trying to find her horse Lila. I heard her call as loudly as she dared, and then a thump with an oof as she inadvertently crashed into the back of her dark brown horse that is easily lost in the darkness. Despite my fear, I giggled while she got on to her horse. As I opened the gate, I heard more footsteps coming toward me. I called out to my sister, "Run!" and she galloped her horse through the gate. I heard the footsteps retreat, giving me time to close the gate and lead the mad dash up the hill. The events of that morning were completely forgotten, as my sister and I played in the water with our horses and raced along the waterline. That was until I happened to walk past the TV while my dad was watching a news report about a man murdered. Time of death estimated to be between 3 and 5 a.m., about a 5-minute walk from the property. Number 3. I never thought I'd share this story to anyone. I was nearly 11 at the time, in a small town in Arkansas. My parents had split at a young age, and my dad felt the need to mooch off someone else to sustain a life of his own, an adult one, that is. If he wasn't hooked onto some poor broad's teat, he was living with his parents. My mum was so busy working or being sick we couldn't live with her, so we lived with our grandparents, and 20% of the time with Dad as well. Anyway, at the time he was in a committed relationship with a woman we'll call Amy, and her kid, Samantha. Samantha was a year younger than me, and my sister, who was 2 years my senior, so I was better friends with her than my sister. Downtown there's a big old park. It's been there since my sister and I were babies, and I had some great memories there. There was a lake, with a dock to walk onto and view the lake on. Samantha and I were playing on the dock, spotting ducks and fish, while my dad and her mum were about 3/4 the length of a football field away, sitting at one of the picnic tables and chatting. My big sister hadn't come, so it was just Samantha and I. Samantha was counting ducks and attempting to call them over, while I watched the bubbles from the water from the swimming fish below. Not within 3 minutes of this, we hear someone else on the dock. It was kind of easy to, considering the dock was wood, and the footsteps were quite audible. The dock, by the way, is in the shape of a T. You walk onto it, walk a bit, and there's an intersection leading to viewing areas. All open space and guarded with some more wood and handles and shit. It's hard to describe. Anyway, me and Samantha are on the right side with our backs to this person. We figured it was a fisherman, which wasn't uncommon, so we ignored it. That was until the person approached us from behind. I figured it was my dad and turned around to smile over my shoulder, but my blood went cold when I realized it wasn't Dad at all. It was a tall man, about 6'3", wearing a dirty tan coat, a white t-shirt covered in brown stains, and a pair of jeans. He stood way too close for comfort, and the smell of gasoline stung my nostrils as he stood there. Because of the way the dock was built, he took up most of the space, blocking any escape unless we leapt over the benches on either side of him. On instinct, I reached over and grabbed Samantha's hand, locking eyes with the man in a way that said, "Not today, man." "I'm sorry, are we in your way?" I remember saying that because I meant to say it in a deep, serious manner. I wanted to seem older than I was. Most people thought I was an older teenager anyway, so maybe he'd back off. He didn't say anything, simply looked at us. Suddenly he smiled, a freaking blood-curdling, wicked, malicious, sadistic smile, all rotten teeth and tobacco stains.
"Are you ladies alone?"
I heard Samantha whimper beside me, and I cleared my throat. "No, my dad's right over there." I pointed across the way, not breaking eye contact. "And he's a cop, so if I were you, I would find another pair of kids." I regretted saying it as soon as it left my mouth. I always had a problem with saying whatever was on my mind as soon as it was. His smile dropped, and his look was dangerously cold. He suddenly reached out with his grimy, gross fingers and grabbed a lock of Samantha's hair. He twirled it around.
"You have really pretty hair, sweetheart,"
he said. Samantha screamed, and the guy began to panic. In that moment, I shoved him as hard as I could and grabbed Samantha, breaking out into a run. We ran down the dock and straight across to our parents. By now, Amy had gone back to the car, and our dad was throwing away some trash. I looked behind us only to see the guy disappear into a white pickup truck parked behind the tree line. We didn't tell our parents. We didn't tell anybody. They didn't even hear Samantha scream. I've been back to that dock since, but I have never let anyone corner me again. I never smiled at a stranger. I gave them that same cold stare I gave that stranger. The kind that said, "Find another kid." Samantha and Amy are out of our lives now, but I doubt she'll ever forget that experience. I certainly won't. Hey guys, Flamingo Creeper here. If you liked that video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you want more, I do upload every Monday, but if you're impatient, you can check out my previous videos. I would like to thank the Reddit users who gave me their permission to read their stories on here. The links for those will be in the description. I would also like to thank the creepy member who sent in their story. If you have any of your own creepy stories that you would like me to narrate, you can email them to me or send them to my Facebook. Those details will also be in the description. If you do send me a story, please write a brief statement saying I have your permission to share it with this beautiful creepy community. Keep an eye on my Facebook as I do post daily about anything creepy, whether they be urban legends, missing people cases, serial killers, or just various murders. Remember, the monster isn't under your bed, it is on the street. And as always, be safe, my creepers.